Good evening, everybody. I request you all to please shut down your videos and mute your microphones. We will be starting with the webinar soon. My colleague, Ms. Priya Gupta, is the one who will be taking it forward. So, Priya, I request you to please take this forward. Over to you.
Thank you, Janvi. Good evening, everyone. I'm Priya. I look after technical contents and even working as a full-time faculty in the Department of Information Technology at Skillville. On behalf of Skillville, I welcome you all for the webinar on Python for Beginners. Before switching over to the webinar, let's discuss about ourselves. Yes, you all have heard the right word, ourselves. Because nowadays, we means people are the most discussed, most influenced, and most infected topic in the world. We all are going through crisis. These crises are tremendously affecting our day-to-day life. Thinking about Indian economy will be the last factor to consider. But every common man is in very confused state. Things are changing drastically. So what is there in our hand? Yes, there is something that we can do. All of you, will you please keep your microphones on mute? It is interrupting the session. It's a request. So there is something that we can do for ourselves. We have to adopt the change. Yeah, it's a bit hard for to accept this change, as this change is very sudden in nature. But we have to accept it. In fact, we all are on the way. Looking at the positive side, as we all have experienced right now, that even my son, which is in the third standard, he has started enjoying his online classes. He is solving her assignments by watching the videos and even checking my number of webinar participants and getting happy to see them. But something scary is also there. You are surrounded with millions and billions of people, but when you see aside, you are absolutely alone. So what is the solution? The only solution is utilizing this quarantine period for betterment of yourself and betterment of your skill set. And of course, we are here to help you out. So who we are? At the outset, we would like to share a short overview of Skillville, which is a part of Vidyalanka Group of Organization. Skillville offers freshers and working professionals a platform to upskill themselves and be job ready with an array of in-demand courses and programs in the domain of information technology. We offer these programs in a blended mode. These programs are offered in partnership with top organizations and corporates. Our programs are curated, delivered, and mentored by industry practitioners and are aimed to empower participants with practical and job-relevant knowledge. Coming towards the programs. In the domain of data science, we offer one-year postgraduate program in business analytics. This program is affiliated by AICTE, which is a national governing body for technical education. It is delivered by IMA, which is again a national body for management streams. We also offer 6-month certificate program in big data engineering and big data analytics. In the domain of cybersecurity, we offer ethical hacking, and we also offer 4-month certificate program in Internet of Things. Coming towards today's webinar, an eminent speaker of today's webinar is Mr. Jay Borade. Mr. Jay is pursuing his PhD from University of Hyderabad in the domain of machine learning and deep learning. He has 12 plus years of experience in project coordination, software development, and research and training. As far as his technical expertise are concerned, he is technically expert in the domains like, of course, machine learning and deep learning, as he is pursuing his PhD in the same. He has also hands-on experience in different languages like Python, R, C, C++, and even Java and SQL. He can also play with the databases like Oracle, MySQL, and web technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScripts. Mr. Jay has worked on many projects. Currently, he is working on two projects with the title of the projects are Attendance Management System using face recognition and YouTube video recommendation system. He is also working on few government projects. He is lifetime member of Indian Society of Technical Education. So I welcome you, sir, in this webinar on Python for Beginners and request you to hold the hand of our participants to enter into the world of Python and explore it to them. Over to you, Mr. Jay.
Good evening. Thanks, Priya ma'am, for such a great introduction. Let us see what we are going to have in today's particular webinar. So these are the topics which we are going to see today in today's seminar. Okay, so I will start with basic things. What is data science? What can be different types of job roles in data science? Then how this companies uses data science in various perspectives or in their various projects. We'll see the introduction to programming concepts, as our topic is like beginners with Python and maths for data science. So I'll be mainly concentrating on that particular technologies. I'll be just giving you some of the libraries. I'll be giving you hands-on with like you can see that okay how these particular libraries are used in companies or for making their projects. Then after that, we will discuss some project ideas which you can at this particular initial state, you can start with. And then followed by, we'll have a question answer session in which like we'll be discussing various questions from your side, and I'll be guiding you with some particular tips and techniques how you can master this data science courses or achieve a good career in current industry. So before starting with all this thing, I'll just like to tell you people that okay, what is happening currently is that if you will see, there are a number of particular technologies are going on, and apart from this particular thing, the COVID condition is there in the current scenario. The companies are actually looking for the great talents, and in for that particular sake, what they're doing is that they're looking for the best profiles to be selected. You might be hearing in the news that many particular IT companies are closing certain particular domains, but the data science field is evergreen. The reason is that we are the day by day, the data is going to be increased in a huge particular sense by various means. And if you are doing analysis of that and utilizing that particular data to achieve various perspectives, even as Priya ma'am was telling about Indian economy, obviously Indian economy is going to affect by this COVID, but then we can provide a solutions for that using data science field. So let us see what actually data science and how this particular thing starts. So complete data science is based on one particular thing is called as data. We have this particular definition like data is collection of raw facts and figures. So what does this actually means is that let us say if you have a population, if you're counting a population at a certain area, what you do is like you get the figures. Okay, how many homes are there at that particular area, how many particular like males, how many females are there in that particular home, how many childs are there, and then you take a particular, you can say, a set of values from there, and this particular raw facts or the figures will actually get processed in order to get the information. Data science is basically you can say a tool. Earlier this particular term was not that familiar. If you go 10 years before, you might not have heard this data science in that particular great particular in boom. But right now what is happening is that we have a data and we have got various methods in order to deal with this particular data, to analyze this particular data. If you heard about different technologies what are going into the market, like you might have heard about Hadoop or big data. All these particular things are like together getting this particular the data which has been collected and is used for processing by using various different technologies, and after processing getting out the information and getting out the knowledge out of it. So if you consider data science, it involves developing methods of my sheet. sorry. So if you consider what is data science, as I told you, that is the study of a data, or it's an analysis of data, what we generally have. So we can consider that, okay, mainly this particular data science field, what it does is like it takes the data, it keep a record of that, it store it in a particular format, it we can analyze that particular data, and then we can get the information out of it. Okay, so this data science, you can say, is a broader term of a thing what we used to say earlier is as data warehouse. Okay, where we used to store a data from different sources, and after getting that particular data, we used to process that particular data by using data mining tools. If you have heard about ETL technologies or ETL tools, that ETL tools were used in order to extract, transform, and load the data into a data warehouse and to get the information out of it. Apart from information, you can say that the higher version of the information is to get the insight or to get the knowledge. So main goal of the data science is to gain the insight and the knowledge from whatever type of data is available. So if you consider about the data, we have different types of data. Data are coming from various sources, like your sensors are there, they are giving you a data. Or this particular data, what, like, you know, your music, or you can say images are there, your texts are there, your messages, what you're sending to your friends. All this particular thing is a group of data. And this data is actually of various particular formats. Now we have basically, when we go for any particular, you can say, model building, or we can go for any particular project, we take this particular data into structured format. It's a request. Please could you mute your mic? We'll have a question answer session at the end. If you are
Hello.
interested in questions,
The host is
type
having
in
the
question.
ability to mute all the participants. Please do this, host.
Okay. Okay. So okay. So if we consider that. Okay. Yeah. So I think now it is, everyone has muted their mics. So what I was telling you about, that is, the data actually comes in two particular formats. There are actually number of formats given by different particular people, but then we usually classify that as a structured data and unstructured data. So structured data is a data which is in the tabular format, and we can directly fire a query on the structured data. It comes in the like, you know, your relational database systems. All these particular things depends on structured data. When we come across the unstructured data are, like, you know, the messy data, or where we can say that, okay, the data is like, you know, in a huge particular way, but then it has been unordered. It is not. It is. I think someone is playing with screen. Okay, so unstructured data is like in a huge format. It might be in the terms of images, the audios, videos, whatever is there. So in order to process that particular data, we have different methodologies. Hadoop is a very, you can say, the system which has been used currently by a number of companies in order to take this unstructured data and organize in the proper sequence. When we come across data science, we also say that, okay, data science is an area which manages, manipulates, and extracts and interprets the knowledge from the whatever amount of data is available and whatever type of a data is available with us. So data science is actually a broad perspective, and we can consider that it is a multidisciplinary field where we have like, you know, we can have different types of domain. We can deal with different types of domain. If you consider the medical domain, or if you consider pharmaceutical companies, or if you consider any other particular companies also, might be IT, you can say any smallest particular business also, even there you can apply this particular data science technologies. Is someone messing with the screen? Okay, so let us move ahead. If we see data science is actually comprises of three main things. One is statistics, coding and business. So if you want to be in the field of a data science, you should have a knowledge of statistics. Statistics is actually the analysis actually we are doing with the data, or you can say we are putting some computations on the data, and we are finding out some outcomes out of it. FLC coding, at least one or two languages are very much important or essential, you can say, in order to go into this field of a data science. Coding, obviously the term coding, like many people say, okay, coding is very hectic, or few of them coding might be a very easiest task, but other may face problem in coding. But then like if it is an essential way, and if you go for the coding and the subjects, you can say the languages like Java or C or C++, you might be facing a little bit of problem in that in order to code it. But then obviously for coding, you need a lot of practice, and that practice can be done on the daily basis. You can solve few queries or solve a few questions, and you can come across with this particular, you can say, phobia of you can say coding. And what in coding actually we see in the data science field, coding mainly have two particular, you can say, main languages. What we use is Python and R. Apart from that, we can use even a Java or other particular techniques also in order to code the models. But the quite frequent, you can say, the languages which is used are like, your Python and R. So if you consider the comparison between these two particular languages, R is being more into the statistical part, like where we have more on statistics, we have more on calculations, we do, and you can say we deal with correlation, we deal with regression, all this type of calculations and statistics can be done by using R language. Whereas if you go for Python, Python is not only used only for creating the statistical way part of a data scientist, but also it also take cares of like your web development, deployment of a projects, everything like that. Third is a business logic, what we say as a business over here. So for making any particular model, so data science, if we consider this particular data science, which comprises of number of subjects like machine learning, deep learning, your SQL you are using, Hadoop is there. If you consider all these different particular techniques, or if you consider all these particular, you can say your languages or subjects, this all particular things can be coded, will have some sort of business logic, can be coded in Python or R, but have some particular business logic. And that particular business logic can be like, done by using your, built by using your business, you can say Python or any other language. But then if you consider that, okay, you have some idea, let us say I want to find out how many people are going to vote for a particular politician. If you are looking at that particular thing, so you will be considering any particular model, you may make a prediction model. Okay, so for making that prediction model, what logic actually you're going to consider, what can be your data in order to consider that particular scenario, how you're going to pre-process that particular data, how you're going to apply that particular data, what all you can say factors you can consider. So if you deal with like, might be tweets of people from the Twitter, or some particular content which has been posted on Facebook, if you consider all that particular things together, and then you can start building on your model or the business model, and then you can achieve your particular project. So basically what happens, if you consider another or traditional languages systems where we have the algorithm, and that algorithm does everything for you. But machine learning is an other concept. Like what happens here is that we have a data, we have you can say the outcomes for that, and we also have the input, the new inputs on which we can try that particular output. So for example, if I want to predict the house price, okay, so if I want to predict the house price, this simple example has been used by a number of people to make understand, okay, how this particular machine learning starts with. So if I need to consider like, find out the house price of a particular house, I may have different types of like you can say different you can say parameters with me, and for that particular different parameters I may have different values with me. What I have to do is that I just say that, let us say there is a house in this particular area which is of this much square feet, has this many particular utilities, and this is the cost of this. If I have this particular data, then from that particular data, through regression or through any you can say some prediction technique, we can just find it out what can be the different house price considering any particular random particular value. So these three are the main pillars of a data science. So you should understand what is the statistics behind it. The main thing why this statistics is important, because all your, you can say, outputs or all your outcomes or your predictions, All this particular thing depends actually on the calculations or the numericals. And this particular, you can say numerical or mathematical fundamentals, what we use in statistics, only few parts I'm going to cover it because we don't have a complete time to spend on all the features. I'll just go on different particular ideas or different particular terms what we basically use. And obviously we are going to use code, for coding we are going to use your Python for that. These are few of the job roles in the data science. The purpose of this slide I have kept it here is to understand what can be goals to achieve. So after doing or after performing various particular courses or after performing various languages, or you can say various subjects, you can be one of this, like you can be having a role of data analyst, or you can have a role of data engineer, data architect, or a data scientist, machine learning engineer, statistician. So if on the basic or the first particular introduction level, if you consider the very first, like after completing your graduation, plus after completing any of this particular course, once you are done with this, you might find that, okay, there are PGs and there are diplomas in this particular field. So once you are done with that particular certification, plus once you are done with your graduation, you are eligible for the basic level. That is, you can be a data engineer, or you can be a machine learning engineer, or you can be a data analyst. These are the three main particular things. For statistician, you should have a different background altogether. For being a statistician, you should have a graduation in statistics and even your master's in statistics. Apart from that, you should have a good hold of your statistical techniques and good hold of maths in that. So these people, statisticians, are mainly focusing on how the outcome has been obtained from a particular model, how this particular outcome can be used in order to get our information or to get the knowledge out of that particular model. So machine learning engineer is a term like used when if you are well versed with machine learning algorithms and you have a coding knowledge about the algorithms. Like for example, if someone says what is a linear regression, or what is a logistic regression, or what is a decision tree algorithm, or whatever is classification algorithm. So if you have hold on this particular algorithms and you have an idea, okay, how this particular algorithm can be used in which particular condition, and how this particular model can be built. Like for example, if you want to build from its scratch, how you're going to go for it. All these particular things will be covered, or you can say considered. Means you should be able of doing all this thing in order to have a post of machine learning engineer. A data engineer is mainly a person who have a good hold on the data. So data engineer and data analysts are nearly, you can say nearly they are related to each other. We can't say that there are different particular set of methodologies or techniques are needed by both of them. Data engineer is mainly versed with the technologies like to handle a big amount of data. So if a person knows Hadoop, if a person knows Spark, if he is good in SQL, so that type of people can apply for the post of data engineer. And then data analyst is like, if you know more about it, like data engineer or data analyst, they also perform pre-processing of data. They deal with removing some unwanted particular things from the data. So as I told you in earlier slides that, okay, we have a data in unstructured format and we have also data in the structured format, but mainly what we use here is the structured format data. When we are actually converting this unstructured form of data into a structured form of data, lot many steps comes out, and you need to remove some particular, you can say, duplicate values or redundant values, or you need to remove null values. All these things are being done by your data analyst people. Okay. And about your data scientist, obviously you should have a good amount of experience in this field of machine learning, deep learning technologies. You should have done more and more projects for this, and then you can become you can have a position of a data scientist. Any particular person who is with a PhD and with well versed with this particular techniques and have a research on some of the algorithms or other techniques related to it can get into data scientist. Okay, so there can be a lateral entry for that type of people in the industry. So let us now see how this big companies or big pillars right now which are there uses this data science technology. So very first we'll see this simple thing like Google uses data science in number of ways. So this is one of the example what you can say Google Translate. So here what happens, please do mute your mic. Okay. So what you can say is the Google Translate, what it you might have used it many you can say number of times, and then what you do is like you just go on Google and you just say Google Translate, and this particular screen can say come in front of you, where you can just type a particular uh, uh, English or some other language thing, and you can get in some output in another thing. So there are other ways also. So what you have usually been seen that, okay, you are doing it by just typing a particular text and you are getting it converted into some other format. But then apart from that, what you can do is that you can even take a photograph of a particular thing, you can upload that particular photograph, or there is like, handwriting recognition algorithms are there available. So this is also done, this handwriting recognition algorithm, or getting a text from the image, all these particular algorithms are related to your deep learning. And when you consider that conversation, or when you like let us say you give an input as a speech, in that case you can say that your algorithms like speech recognition algorithms are there. We use automated speech recognition algorithm, ASR technologies are used. So what they do is like they extract the words, or they extract the text from that particular whatever your statement is, and they try to convert it into a specific format, and then find the query, find the, you can say the output of it from the database, and then they will pop out the actual conversation. Okay. Or there is actually a translator available which translates this particular language into a particular format, which extract that particular word from the dictionary which is available inside your database itself, and it will give out you the specific output what you are thinking of, what you're actually in need of. So this is one of the examples. Here actually the statistical models are used in order to do this. So what we actually do is like, let us say we have a handwritten recognition, if we consider this. So people write in different particular formats, they might have different types of handwritings. So what this particular system does is like, it will try to convert that, or it will take each and every letter or each and every number from that particular text. It will just take extract it from that particular image. After extracting, it has a database where it just checks what particular you can say letter it matches with. So here what happens is like deep learning algorithm is being used. You might have been having an idea that, okay, images are actually stored in the form of matrices. So this particular matrices will have some particular you can say values, like in the form of, if it is a black and white image, if I consider, it may be in the form of zeros and ones, or it may have some grayscale values, or if it is a colored image, it may have some intensities. So taking that into consideration, what happens is that that particular intensities are being compared with different particular set of values what I have in a data set. And then what we do is like, we come to a conclusion that, okay, this particular things means that. So what actually we have here is that we have a corpus, and through that corpus what we do is like, we identify the words, various words which are coming into the corpus. So this is a Google Translate, one of the example which is used by Google in order which uses a machine learning algorithm. This is an algorithm like, rank brain algorithm. It's also based on deep neural network. Now this all completely deep neural networks or deep learning, this all completely depends actually on the neurons. So if you know what is a neuron, and what is an artificial neural network, so from there itself everything starts with. So what this artificial neural network or this particular deep neural network, what it does is like, so this I have just taken an example over here, where you can see that by if you consider a small child, what happens is like, he sees everything what is happening in the surrounding, and depending on whatever things are happening here, he learn from it. After learning it, he will get some particular knowledge, and then he uses it. Okay, now this sentence means this thing, or if this is an image, it means this thing. Okay, or if a person has some particular face, you can say if you want to identify someone's face recognition, or you can say expression on the face. So he may say, okay, if the like if there is a particular smile on the face, what that this means, and what type of expressions are there, so he can understand that. But then for understanding that, what has happened is like, it has taken number of years, like from when you are child to once you grow up, till that time you are just seeing in your environment what is happening out of it, and you are able to give the response to that particular thing. So same thing happens here when we consider rank brain algorithm. So usually what happens is like, for example, if you are logged in into your particular account, let us say you have a particular browser and you have logged into your particular account, your Gmail account, let us say. Now what happens is like, whatever search you keep on searching on your internet, you might have seen this in a simple example where like, if you have opening your email, and let us say that on Google you might have searched for a certain thing. Let us say you are fond of chocolates, and you might have searched the chocolates for number of time, then what happens whenever you open your email, that time you might find that, okay, there are some advertisements which are like, of chocolates, which are surrounded by into your particular Gmail. Okay, so same thing happens here also. If you are logged in and then you are using this particular search, then automatically what you have searched on the prior on your previous particular searches, apart from that, in what particular location you are belonging or what particular area you are present, and there are number of other factors are considered, and then a response is generated. So for example, if I'm searching on a Google for a something, like let us say where is this particular hotel or something like that. So if you type where is, and you find that, okay, some other text is coming ahead. Okay, so it is giving an option what you want to choose for. Okay, whether you are searching for this thing or that thing or this thing. So it totally depends on your history, what has been searched in that particular browser. Also, it depends on what particular domain you are searching for, what particular area you are belonging in that particular thing. So this has been handled by your deep learning neural network, which is used in RainBrain algorithm. It is used by Google. You might have seen this Google Assistant is also there. Okay, so it is a natural language processing. If you say something, so on your phones also you can find that, okay, there is a speaker button, and you input any particular give some voice particular instruction to the system, and then what happens is that that voice is getting converted, and then it has been like, first of all identified, okay, what does this particular sentence means and something like that. And then what happens, it checks in it feeds it to the machine learning models, and then it identifies what particular type of data should be given as a response or what activity should be done. So for example, if you are saying that I need to find out the nearest hotel, so if I first of all I should know what is the location from that particular person is like, identifying, or he is giving that particular instruction over there. So once I know the location, that time that particular location is been searched in the Google for getting various particular hotels nearby, and then you are getting that particular data out of it. Okay, so this is like these are the some examples. I'm just sharing you with you people. You might be knowing it. It uses NLP and image recognition. So this is one more example of Facebook. It uses Rosetta. Now you see that, okay, in Facebook, what happens, number of images you people uploaded, and what that particular image at what time that particular images comes, or what are the text which is present on that particular image. So what it does is like this Rosetta algorithm, what it does is like it takes the image, and then what it does is like it extract the text out of that particular image. It saves that particular text. So this particular text also can be used in order to search for something. Look, for example, if I'm searching for some particular text, then you may get the result as images also. So this is like, by having this type of Rosetta type of machine learning algorithms, we can perform all these particular activities. So here you can see this is just a flow I have given here, that once you upload a particular image, it goes to the front end server. So here once it goes to the machine, it get processed. Then the text is first of all identify where that particular text is present on that particular image, and that process is actually called as text localization. And after text localization, something called as text recognition happens. Now text recognition is like you may have different types of classification algorithms where your different classes are being created, and text recognition is like identifying a text. So to identify what that particular text belongs to, the classification algorithm is used in order to classify that into a different sets, and accordingly it will be saved in database. Whenever the search appears, that time what happens is like from that database we get that particular data or that particular image or image related thing or text related thing, and then we pop up to the user. Okay, so this is like just a flow. I have just shown that, okay, what will be the market of your 2000, you can say machine learning, or you can say data scientist. So if you consider hardware and software services, this is a growth. These are the you can say the figures which are been generated by MRFR analysis. So they have said that, okay, you can see that there will be a huge demand and huge particular, you can say, amount of uh, uh, investment, or also you can say huge amount of people, those who are into this field, we are going to earn in a huge amount when we go in this particular market. Even if the condition like right now it is happening, you might be seeing that, okay, there are some particular openings going on even right now in this particular COVID situation also. Companies which are into the field of machine learning, deep learning, or data science jobs, they are hiring the people on the lateral basis currently. So the market is for not for the you can say the very particular junior people, those who are like just right now entering into the market, but for the, you can say, the people those who are experienced in this particular technology. Even juniors can apply. I'll just discuss few things after this particular session, right? How you can go into the market even currently. Okay. So now let us come to our main topic, that is like who use Python and why this Python. You might have done this Python in some of your, you can say, graduation, or if you're done with some, you can say, diploma programs or graduation program, whatever might be your back particular, you can say, educational background. So you can see that this language, you might have studied Python in your that particular curriculum. But if you're not, if you're studied with some other languages, then I will say that Python is the, you can say, the growing particular language. And many people have, or many particular companies, the big giant companies like YouTube, Google, you can see Dropbox, your Raspberry Pi, all these particular, you can say, you can say, industries are using your Python as the main core language over there. Reason behind this is Python can be used for development of number of things, not only the machine learning related project, or not only the data science related related projects, but even if you want to do, suppose, ethical hacking, or if you want to do cyber security courses or something, or if you want to go into that, you can say, cyber security or IoT market, if you want to get into. So even there also you can find that this machine, you can say, Python has been very commonly used. You can see these examples where I have shown that, okay, NASA is also using this, you can say, Python for performing various algorithms. These are the, this is like, the overview of IEEE spectrum for the last year, that is 2019. These are the language ranking given. Even currently, if you'll find, the current scenario also says that Python has got a higher scope with respect to other languages. It's very high in the market, and I might be, you might be surprised with this thing that, okay, even if you are using Java quite frequently, and for many years you might have heard that, we also know that Java was developed in 1995, but just I will tell you that, okay, this Python actually is built in 1989, which is prior to the Java. But the market has boomed currently because of the data science and because of the related libraries which are been available in the data science market. And that's the reason, like, as this particular field is growing up, your Python has got a huge demand in the, you can say, industries. So let us go for the mathematical modules now. If you consider Python, or if you're done with the Python, just I'll tell you that, okay, you might have done with this math module, which is an inbuilt module. Let us now go for some particular examples for doing it. So yeah, there are a number of IDs, and what I'm going to show you some particular coding stuff, and I'm using this ID called as Anaconda. In that Anaconda, we have like, set of different IDs are there. In that we have a Jupyter notebook. So currently this is a Jupyter notebook. This is a look how of a Jupyter notebook. There are other IDs also. You can use number of IDs. The reason behind using Jupyter notebook or Anaconda is that you can perform number of activities or number of programs in different cells using same notebook. Let us see some basic particular scripts or some particular some small programs where you can use math module. So if you'll see math module provides you a number of things like these are the things what you get. These are the inbuilt particular functions you have in the math module. You might have done this particular thing in your graduation, I suppose. So you can see, if you want to find a cos value, sine value, hyperbolic cos, hyperbolic sine, or tan, or any particular trigonometric, we can say calculation if you want to perform, or if you want to perform, like, if you have a numbers, if you want to find a positive number, negative number, if you want to find some log of something, if you want to use some inbuilt value like pi, if you want to take a mod, okay, all these things can be done using your this inbuilt library called as math library. Okay, so you might be knowing that there are inbuilt libraries, and some libraries what I'm going to discuss today, we will these are the libraries which are available for performing certain tasks, but they are not, we can say, they are not a part of an inbuilt module of a Python. So once anyone install the Python, then whatever libraries are available, so math module is one of them. Just we can see here that yeah, so first, to use this particular module, what we do is, like, we need to import that particular module. So here I can just take an example over here. Suppose I'm importing math module, so you will say import math. After that, what we are going to do is, like, we can just see what particular functions you have to do or what particular operation you need to perform, and depending on that you can do it. So let us say that I have a number and I have some number, let us say A, and I have in that particular A you have some number, let us say 3.5, something like that. And now what you have to do is like you have to find the value, the upper, you can say the value of this or the lower value of this if you want to find what we say as a seal or the floor. So what you can do directly is like you can just say print and then you can say math dot seal, and you can pass this particular variable. So you can see that this value is like 4. So what happens here is that even if I'll give here 3.4, okay, so even if I'll give 3.4, I'm getting it 4 because I'm asking for the seal value. Okay, so similarly when we go for floor value, if I'll just do this on the next cell, it can see this is the advantage of using your Jupyter notebook. If I'm doing math dot floor over here, and if I'm just passing this A, I get the output as 3 over here. The reason is that is the floor value of that. So there are many other functions also, so many other modules also, but then let us go for a few of them. Let us say you need to find a factorial of a particular number. So usually we have seen that in C, C++ or Java, you write a complete program. You might be using a functions for doing it, or you must be writing that particular program using a recursive function. But then Python provides you this inbuilt thing, like you can just say math dot factorial of a particular number, the number what you have to pass. Let us say I want to find a factorial of 6. You can just do it and you may get this answer. Okay, so similarly, if I want to find a mod of something, so mod is nothing but the remainder. Just we have a function called as, we just use this math.fmod, and then we pass the values. Like if I want to say that 3 by 2, if I want to do, and I find the remainder, so I'll get this particular thing. By default, everything is like, you know, if you do mathematical operations, many values, if you'll see that you will get it in the any particular value where the division or the remainder has been taken, you get all that particular thing in the floating point values. So we can also do, like, you know, let us say I want to find a GCD of two numbers. So usually what happens is like all these particular programs, what we did in other particular programming languages, we had to take some input and we had to write a big code for it. But here what is happening, you just say use an inbuilt function and just you can get the value of it. Okay, so even if I want to deal with something called as pi, so if I say math.pi and if I want the value of it, I can just say run it and then I will get the value of it. Okay, so this is the inbuilt math module, which is the simplest module which is available. And basically, if you're done with the Python, you might be knowing about this module. But apart from this module, we require to go one step ahead in order to, you can say, deal with the real-time data. And this module, what I'm going to discuss right now is your this, that is NumPy. NumPy is a library. Actually, it is not available with Python. So means I'm saying that it is explicitly available. So we have to install it when we are using this particular, you can say, NumPy library. Basically, if you see, there are some libraries, like you can say random is a library or math is a library. Directly after installing the Python, we can directly open the IDLE and we can type the code for it, which is related to it. But when we go for this type of libraries like NumPy, or we'll go for Pandas, or if we'll go for Matplotlib, these all libraries are available for Python. They are built in sense for running it with Python, but they are not present in the setup. So if you are using any other IDE other than, you can say, Anaconda, which is not actually an IDE, but it's a set of group of IDEs. So apart from that, if you're using any other particular IDEs, then what happens is like you need to explicitly install. Okay, so for installing it, we have a command called as pip install and the name of the library what you can give it. But let us see this library and that little bit what we can do from this particular library. If you're using Anaconda, this library is available directly. You don't need to explicitly install it. You just need to import it into your program and you can use that particular functionalities of this particular library. Mainly, if you have heard about MATLAB, okay, so MATLAB is a base for all these things. So what we can do in MATLAB is actually we can work out with mathematical operations. We can do scientific calculations. We can do some small programming in MATLAB in order to like, you know, deal with images. Okay, so mainly this MATLAB focuses on images, extracting the data from that images, modification of images, we can say transformation of images, convolution of images. These all operations are performed in a MATLAB. So there are various things what we use. First is like we have you can say stuff which is related to scientific and mathematical simple operations that we can say it takes into that is handled by NumPy in Pandas, NumPy in Python. And if you go for like taking the data, for example, when we go for this particular machine learning or any other thing, we will not say that our data is available in a sort of database. Not only a database, we can have number of other things like to have a data. If you have programs, some simple programs where we are taking some input from the user, there we have only some small amount of data which we are importing into the system. But when we come across this machine learning, which is a giant term, in this case, we are not dealing with a small data, we deal with a huge amount of data. So to handle this huge amount of data, obviously we need a big structures or big particular techniques to handle it. And you can say that NumPy or Pandas can be used in order to do it. Okay, or you can have to import that particular data. Usually we use Pandas. I'll just show you how it is done in Pandas also. I'll give you just an example for it. And we also have Matplotlib as a library which will able to plot that particular things, whatever has been like created or whatever like you data has been processed. If you need to plot that particular thing, you can use this Matplotlib. We'll go across all these three libraries in very brief way. I'll just make you understand because it's not actually a platform where I can teach you in depth this particular languages or this particular modules. We'll go through different you can say components of it. So NumPy basically is a numerical Python, we can say the full form of this particular library, and is mainly used in order to deal with arrays or matrices. If you have heard about TensorFlow, so TensorFlow, the tensor actually is nothing but a vector. And to create this particular vectors, we use NumPy. So when you are studying about the deep learning things, you will find that, okay, we are using something called as tensors. The tensors are actually nothing but your NumPy, you can say arrays, and which we can have in different particular format. It can be a one-dimensional, it can be a two-dimensional or multiple dimensional. So there are various ways to create arrays using NumPy. Even like, if you go for a Python, you can create a normal arrays also. Normal arrays are somewhat different with respect to NumPy array. If I'll consider or if I'll compare the speed of a Python program with a program which has got a NumPy, you might see that, okay, this NumPy library is like, it is faster with respect to your, you can say normal Python programming. So we'll just let us see this particular thing, how it happens actually in the programming. I'll just show you how this is happening. So let us see this. In order to, first of all, in order to create any particular vector or any particular array or matrices, we need to import this particular array NumPy library. So just again, as we have imported the math library, and as I told you that as this is an Anaconda notebook and you don't need to install anything, I'll just write import NumPy as NP, and what will happen is like this NumPy library will come into your system. We are using an alias over here. This as NP is an alias. Alias, what it does is actually it becomes a handler over there. So instead of writing NumPy every time, I can just write NP, and I can get the. Also, we can say that it is a sort of object. From this object, I can access the different functions or different methods or different classes. Okay, so after getting this, what we can do is like we can create a simple arrays or simple particular functions, whatever we want to do it. Like we have a basic method. What we use is np.array. Let us see how to use it. So let us say I'm taking a as one particular variable, a placeholder, and I'm just creating an array. Let us say I'm just saying np.array, and if you heard about list, I'll just pass a list. Here we can pass any iterable object. You might have seen in Python that we have different iterators, like we have tuples, we have lists, we have sets, we have dictionaries. So we have to pass an iterator over here. But in order to get an array, it's mandatory you pass a list over there, but we can deal with tuples also. So if I just type, suppose for example, this is one of my array I'm creating. It's a one-dimensional array. It's in a single square bracket. We can just say that, okay, this array has been created. If I'll print this, okay, it says that it is an array which consists of this particular element. You can just see if you do a and if you do print a, you'll be getting its class over here. Okay, so if you do print a, you'll get directly the element. If you'll just do a, you'll get the class of it also. So class of it means I just want to say that it is specifying that what particular type of object it is, array object. Okay, so even we can get the type of a, which just we can do type of a, and you'll see that, okay, it's saying that it is a NumPy array. and you can just check the shape of it. I can just say a dot shape. Okay, and you will get the shape of this particular, sorry, a dot shape, and you'll get the shape of this particular array. Now here what is happening here is, as it is one dimensional shape, we always know that shape comes in two particular values. One is m and other is n. So m is number of rows and n is number of columns. Now as this is one particular dimensional array, we get a tuple which can consist of number of elements in it. So as we have four elements, as we have this four elements, that's the reason we are getting 4 over here. Okay, so even what we can do is like we can find the dimension of this. So what we can do is a dot ndim in order to get the dimension of this particular array. That is saying it's one dimensional. Okay, so we can even get the size. These are different particular, you can say, functions which we can use it, or different methods which we can access over here. As we have, as this was about one dimensional array, we can also create a two dimensional array. So again, we can use a dot a is equals to np dot array, and we can pass values over here. So I'm considering, as it is two dimensional, I need to have this particular two. So I'll just give you a trick how to read this. You just see that number of opening brackets and number of closing brackets. So let us say now there's 1, 2, 3. I'm writing as first particular set of first row, and let us say 4, 5, 6 is my second row. So if I'll run this, if I'll print it, if I'll just print, say print A, and you will see that it is giving you a matrix. Okay, so now this particular matrix, why we are actually doing all this particular matrices and all, as I told you that if you go for image processing, if you go for deep learning algorithms, mainly you will find that we have images, and that images are nothing but a form of a matrix. So to handle that, to transform it, to perform various operations on it, we need to convert that particular, you can say, matrices into this particular array type of format. Okay, so it can be a 2-dimensional, it can be a 3-dimensional also. So let us take an example of a 3-dimensional. Again, if you want to see the size of thing, or you can say the type, so if you'll do a dot type over here, and if you'll run this, a dot, sorry, type of a, if you'll do here, you can see that again it is saying that numpy dot nd array. And if I want to go for let us say I want to check what is a shape of it, I'll just do a dot shape, and I'll see that okay, it is 2 by 3. So it says that there are 2 rows and 3 columns in it. Okay, so apart from this, if I want to create a 3-dimensional arrays or 3-dimensional matrices, so in that case again we can use a is equals to, a can be a is a variable here. You can use any particular other variable also. I'll just use a np dot array, a equals to np dot array, and I will just give a 3-dimension. I'll just use first bracket, second bracket I'll use for getting the values. So let us say I have here as 1 comma, I have inside this one more bracket, 1 comma 2, 1 comma 3, let us say is the first element. Then second element I may take, like you can say 4 comma 5, I'm taking a second element. Then I'm coming out of this, again I'm taking one value for me. Then again I'm having, let us say 7 comma 8 as first value. Next I'm taking one more value here. Okay, yeah, so let us see how this happens. Okay, so this is your 3-dimensional array. Now if you want to, if you'll see the shape of this a dot shape, if I'll do here, so you'll see that it is 2 comma 2 comma 2. Now how this particular 2 comma 2 or comma 2 is, like how we read it, like so here you can see that we have actually 3 particular, you can say, brackets openings are there. So if you see internally here, this is the first particular element. Okay, inside the third bracket, this is the first element, and this is your second element over here. Okay, this is the first element, and this is the second element. Now inside this second element, what you have is like you have 2 rows. Okay, so the first two indicates that in the outer bracket we have 2 elements. This is the first element, this is the second element. The second two, what is there, it is representing that okay, there are 2 rows in that particular inner bracket. Okay, so here first row and second row, so that is the second row. And then third particular 2 represent that number of elements in every particular single row. Okay, so this is how we read a 3-dimensional matrix, or 3-dimensional, you can say, array. We can we have different methods, like we can just go for doing let us say I'm just using one method. This was one method what we have discussed, like arrange array method. You can have another method as like to create array, or you can say a array or a matrix that is nothing but your linspace. So I'll just say a is equals to np dot linspace. Okay, and I'll pass few values. Now what values we have to pass here is that what is the initial point you want to have, and what is the you can say the last point. Okay, for example, I need to create an array which is having the values from, let us say, 0 to 50, and I have like I have to specify that, okay, how many particular you can say gaps are there. Okay, so I'll just explain you this with an example. So we say that there is a start, there is a stop, and there is a step. So what are the steps between it? Okay, or when we do linspace, what happens actually is the values get splitted into equal parts. So if we consider a line, a number line system, so how we can see that, okay, there's all numbers are like 1 centimeter apart from each other. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 like that in this on the x-axis, y-axis. So similarly, what line space will do is like whatever the range is given to you, the starting and ending range is given to you, it breaks that particular range into equal number of parts. So let us take a simple example. If like I'll say I want from 0 to 10 and I need to divide into, let us say 5 parts. Okay, so if I give this way and if I'll print my a value, you will see that, okay, these are the equal parts. So for example, I started from 0, and the default particular data type we use by linspace is your floating point data type or float data type. So I started from 0, I went till 10, and you can see I want 5 parts, so it has equally divided the part into different particular steps. Okay, so this is like by default, if I'll not give anything, then you may see that, okay, what is it has done. Okay, so it has divided into 50 parts. So default particular value for linspace, if I'm not representing any particular you can say number of divisions, so it will automatically divide that particular range into 50 parts. Okay, and if I'm giving it, it will divide into that number of parts. Apart from that, we can have different value, you can say other particular parameters. For that, Python, this Anaconda provides you one good thing, that you can have a help of any particular command. So if I'll say help and linspace, sorry, I need to say np dot. Okay, so in this function, you can see that you have a start, you have a stop, and you have a number. By default, it is said that 50 particular divisions will happen. And if you need to, if you did not consider this 10, now as we know that in Python, what happens is like whatever elements we give, let us say I'm doing a slicing of a particular thing. Slicing means I'm getting elements, certain elements out of that particular list. So you see that what happens is that whatever the end value is there, that end value is always excluded, and the start value is included. Now here what is happening is that if I don't want that end value, and then I have to get a 50 equal parts, then I can do this endpoint equals to true. Okay, endpoint true is like I should have the endpoint is equals to false we will do. So that what will happen is like you'll get a 50 values, okay, from a start and stop within that particular range, but it will not consider the last point. Okay, and then we can have this RET step. Now RET step usually is nothing but if you want to get that, okay, what is the division or what is the difference between any two particular points. So I can say just here I can put a comma and I can say RET step equals to true. So RET step equals to true. If I'll do this, so it says that, okay, it provides me the return step, and you can find this return step here at the last, that is 0.20408. Okay, so this is the difference between any two consecutive values. Okay, this value 0.20408 is the difference between any two consecutive values. Okay, so this is like some of this is like a linspace in order to create your array. Even it can have you can say multi-dimensional arrays also we can develop using linspace. You can just see this particular examples are provided over here if you go in help. And just a second, I go to the next cell. Yeah, so there are a few other methods in order to develop or in order to get this particular matrices using your NumPy. So let us say if I want to create a blank array. Okay, so for example, I'm just saying that, okay, I want to create a placeholder where this particular matrix is like a matrix full of zeros. So I can just say z is equals to, let us say I want to create a matrix of zeros of one dimension. So I just write zeros and I write a 5 here. So it will create a one dimensional matrix of 0. Okay, if I print Z, you'll see that this particular values are there. That is all 0 0.0.0.5 values I'm getting. So these values are nothing but all zeros are there, and then we can replace these values anytime into your particular program. So when we perform these mathematical operations, we use this empty matrices or the matrices with zeros or matrices with one, and then like, you know, depending on what particular condition or what transformation or what particular thing you have to do, you can just, like, you know, change the values over there. So even we can have a ones matrix. I can just say, oh, is equals to np dot ones, and I can have this. Now we can have this matrices into one dimension, or we can have it into a two dimension also. So for having a two dimension, I can just pass here 3,2, let us say, and if we'll run this, if I'll print the value of O, you'll get that matrix as, okay, it's a 3 by 2. It means 3 rows and 2 columns, but then this matrix will have all the values as 1. Okay, because we have specified here that I need a ones matrix. So this is like, you know, zeros matrix, ones matrix. Then we can have a matrix for creating an identity matrix. So you might have seen that when we are solving the linear equations in the mathematics, we use this particular linear algebra. If you use this identity matrix to solve that particular linear equations also. So for example, I have an equation type of ax equals to b. In order to solve that type of equations, linear algebraic equation, we use this type of matrices. So to create it, what I can do is, like, I can just define any particular variable, and I'll just say np dot I, and I is nothing but an keyword which is used in order to create an identity matrix, and I need to specify that, okay, how many values will be there in identity. So if I'll say 10, and if I'll print this I, you will see that, okay, the matrix is generated. This matrix will have this is a 10 by 10 matrix. It's an identity matrix, and you will see that diagonal all values are 1 over here. Okay, so all the other functions what we have seen with one dimension and two dimension, like getting a size, getting a dimension, or getting a type of it, that can be performed by your you can say any particular type of this matrix. There are others also, like we can use a mat function in order to create a matrix. You have a matrix function to create a matrix, that also is there. You can for like, you know, your good reference, you can for learning this, you can just refer the documentations of Python which is available online, and it's free by Python org itself. It's given by Python org itself. We can have certain array operations which we can perform. Let us say that I have two arrays with me. Let us say I have a v is one array, and I am saying that np dot array, the value of this array, I'm just passing some random values here, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, let us say, and I have one more array with me. Let us say that array is w, and I'm doing is equal to np dot array, and I'm passing certain values in it. So let us say this might be 2 comma 2 comma 5 comma 8 comma 9. These are the values. And if I am to perform different arithmetic operations on this particular vectors or one dimensional arrays, then too it is possible. So I can just show you this. Let us have one more. Yeah. So if I'll do v plus w here, and you can see that this arrays has been added. I can perform any particular arithmetic operation. You can have this by you can go for this v into 2, let us say. So if I'll do this, what has happened is, like I'm saying, it is raised to 2. Okay, so every element of this v will raise to 2. Okay, so I'm saying that 1 raised to 2, 2 raised to 2, 3 raised to 2, like that. Okay, that we can do it. Similarly, if I want to multiply two particular values, if I'm doing v star w, okay, and you can see this. Now what has happened here is that this is like normal multiplication of each and every values, mapped values. Okay, so this we can perform in your two-dimensional arrays also. Let us take some examples on two-dimensional array. So let us say we are creating one two-dimensional array. Let us name it as x equals to np dot array, and let us have a two-dimensional array with us. So I'm saying 1 comma 3 is first set, and second is 6 comma 9, let us say. This is one array, and I'll create a similar type of array, and y is equals to np dot array, and in bracket if I'll give some elements over here, 2 comma 5 and comma, okay, 8 comma 7, and the outer brackets. Okay, So this is like we have a two-dimensional arrays, and now we have to perform certain operations on it. So it is also possible if I do x plus y, you can get the addition of these two particular matrices. Okay, if you want to print this, you can just print it separately. First of all, let us say this is x and this is my y, and I'm performing some operations on it. I'm just doing x plus y, x minus y, whatever like arithmetic operations or any particular operations you want to perform, you can do on it. Uh, let us do the multiplication here and see what the results we are getting. X into y if I'm doing. Now you can see that it is multiplying the actual element. It is not the actual matrix multiplication. It is mapping the values. Okay, so 1 is multiplied by 2 and you're getting 2 here. 3 is multiplied by 5 and you're getting 15 over here. So that way it is like mapping it. Okay, but then if you need to do certain matrix multiplication, also we have you can say a different symbol for it. We can do just x and add the rate y. If we'll do this, we'll get a matrix. Sorry, x is not defined. X is small. Okay, so if you'll do this, now you are getting the output, and this is called as your matrix multiplication. So if you consider that in other particular languages, if I need to create a program for, if you consider simple Java, okay, so in that case, if I need to multiply two matrices, in that case it becomes a tedious job. I need to write a four for loops in order to multiply you can say two matrix of some dimension. So we are getting rid of all this particular thing by using this all libraries. Okay, so first you have to define these values as a numpy values, and then just you have to perform this particular operation. It can be any dimension. I have just shown you a 2 by 2. You can have number of elements in it. Okay, you can even have 1,000 by 1,000 matrix, and you can multiply that 2,000 by 1,000 matrix in order to get the output out of it. Okay, so that is all possible in your numpy. Okay, and even if you want to deal with linear you can say algebraic equations, in that case also your you can say use your numpy. So if we say I want to do a raised to 3, okay, or if I want to like multiply a 3 times, a is one of the matrix, or let us say x is our matrix in this case, and if I need to multiply this x, okay, or I need to do x raised to 3 if I want to do, so we can just say we have a function called as mw, m of pow, and then we can just say x comma let us say 3. So okay, I need to first of all import it. So I'll just say from numpy dot. So for dealing with a linear algebra, we have a linear algebra module. I'll just say from numpy dot linear algebra import matrix, okay, underscore power as POW. Okay, so if I just do this, and now if I say MPOW x comma 3, and you will see that what's the problem. Okay, I have done this pow, so it should be n pow actually. Okay, so you can see that every element has been raised to multiplied by itself. So this particular operation is equivalent to getting x uh, multiplied by x multiplied by x. Now this is actual matrix multiplication. Okay, so if I perform this x into x into x, you may see that you will get the same value. So it's what we are doing is like we are taking x, we are multiplying x by x, okay, the actual matrix multiplication, and then whatever output is we are getting, that we are again multiplying by x. So that is one thing what we can do by this. And if you'll go with actual machine learning terms or actual statistical places where we use this is like to find out the mean, mode, median. If you have heard about this particular you can say parameters. So let us say I have a matrix with me, I have an array with me. So even I can take a list out of here, but as I'm showing you it in the numpy, I'll just take an array, and I'm just saying np dot array, and in the bracket I'm writing some values for it. Let us say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Such values I have taken, and now let us say I want to, if I print array, you will get this array. Okay, so if I want to perform now mean operation, so adding of all I'm doing here, I'll just say np dot mean of ARR, so you'll get the mean of it. So no, so what happens, you know, this mean, median, all these particular values are like of very more importance when we actually go for you know, you have a data, lot of amount of data is there, and you want to specify with some particular value. You have to come up with the conclusion with that, okay, what will be the standard value for a certain thing. Then in that case, this mean will have a more impact. And if I need to see that, okay, these are the elements, 1 2 3 4 5 are the elements, okay, and I want to find that, okay, what is the index of a particular element, okay, which is lower or which is a higher. So if I'll just do np dot mean, np dot min, okay, of ARR, you'll see that I'm getting the minimum value. Okay, if I'll do np dot max, I'll get a maximum value. So these are all inbuilt functions what are available. You can use it in NumPy. Apart from that, let us say now if I want to deal with you know, position of that particular values, so we can have np argmax here. So we can just say np dot argmax, okay, and then we'll pass this array. So what argmax will do, will return the position of the maximum element. Now you'll see that the maximum element is 5, but the position of this maximum element is 4. As we all know that in Python, what happens is like your indexes start from 0. So this is 0th index, first, second, third, and fourth. So 5 is at 4th index, and we are getting it 4th as a value. Okay. So this is you can say this all particular operations in a single line we can get by using your library called as NumPy. Okay. We can perform the matrices, or we can get the log of something. So for example, if I'm saying I have ARR is our one particular array, and I want to get the log to the base 10, so I'll just say log np.log 10, and we'll pass this particular ARR. So we'll get the logarithmic values to the base 10 of this particular you can say array. And if you want to find the sine values, cosine values, that also can be done. So I can just take a simple example here, that if I'm doing np.sine of let us say 2 into some particular value I'm taking here, np.pi, okay, of x, okay, so x, yeah, so whatever x we have defined, x is the x which has been defined earlier over here, okay, so this is the x matrix, and then what we are doing is that we are multiplying it by pi value, 2 into pi, okay, into x, and then we are finding sine of that particular value. So this is how we can use the all trigonometric particular values also by using NumPy. Okay, so these are the apart from that, you know, if you have heard about the concept of random numbers is like, you know, very frequently type of a number system used in case if you don't have a data. So in data science, our main job is with the data analysis or dealing with data or performing certain operations on data. But what if you don't have the data? So in that case, we can generate a data. To generate a data, we have different ways to generate it. Like we can use random numbers, or we can find out. But then other ways are like, you know, having a bias. So for example, if I'm looking for something which is in my favor, I will obviously give that particular assign values to that particular, according to my particular problem definition, I may assign the values. But then if I say that I have to consider any particular random values, in that case, we can use np.random module. And if I say np.random, and I'll say a function called as rand in that. So if I run this, okay, you'll get certain value. Now I'm passing, now not passing anything in this, but if you'll see that rand function, what it does is like it creates some particular values which are between 0 to 1, okay, a random value. If I call it one time, I get it one time. Okay, so if I'm saying that I want number of values, I want, let us say, 3 values, 3 random values, I can just say np.random.rand, and I can pass a parameter as 3 over here, which will give me 3 particular values in this case. Okay, so what we can do more in this is like we have rand n also, new function, you can say one more function in this random. I'll just say np.random.rand n, and now here what is happening is that I am saying that I need 3 values, but now this particular 3 values, what I'm getting, which will be, you can say, if you have heard about a distribution curve, normal distribution curve. So in that normal distribution curve, whatever the center line is there, so towards this particular center line, you will find that, okay. Towards this particular center line, we will be able to see it. I'll just use my paint to show it. So if I'm saying that, okay, I have this particular normal distribution curve with me, okay, and this is my curve, the normal distribution, okay. So if I'm saying that this is my particular, you can say the center value, and the values which are associated with this particular area. So out of this, if I want to create some random numbers, so I'll get these random numbers which are here. So I'm saying that, okay, this is my 0 over here. So I may get a negative values, I may get a positive values, but which are related, which are nearest to the median or the or mean of that particular curve, not mean of a normal distribution curve. So that can be done by ran n. So it is normal. You can say they are normalized value. Then we have other functions like if I want to get integer values, I can just say np dot random, np dot random dot rand int, and we can pass the values what we want. Let us say I want a matrix of random values which is having the values from 0 to, let us say, 10, and I want it in a dimension of, so this is the third parameter, is the dimension I am passing here. So let us say I want it in the dimension of 4 by 5. Okay, so if I'll run this, you'll get an 4 by 5 matrix, that is 4 rows and 5 columns, and the values you will find that, okay, they are in between 0 and 10. Okay, all these particular values will be here. So all these particular type of matrices are mainly used when you are giving a transformation. So for example, if I'm considering any CNN network or convolution neural network, if you heard about, or artificial neural network, if I'm considering, so whatever particular metrics I have, or the set of image metrics I have, if I want to perform certain transformation on that particular matrix, I need to create a mask out of it. So this mask is nothing but your, you can say, the structural element, and this structural element actually you're going to put on this particular image matrix in order to apply transformation on that matrix. So what I'm saying that I have A as an image matrix, and I have so I'll say that I have A as in my image matrix. Okay, and now what I want to do is like I want to find certain pattern in this particular matrix. So I'll be having this structure element matrix. So what I can do is that I can just superimpose this particular structure element matrix on different places over here, and accordingly I'll able to get the values. Okay, I'll keep on putting this and I will get the values. Okay, if you have done with image processing, you might be knowing what this concept is. Okay, so I'm just performing a transformation of this particular matrix, or I'm getting certain values out of it. Am I doing erosion or dilation of that particular image? You can say like that. Okay, so that particular operations, if you want to perform, you use this particular library, which is commonly used by a number of people, those who are doing machine learning and stuff. Okay, so even if I want to get some particular equations solved, so that also is possible. Like for example, if I have a certain equation like x into sine of x plus cos of 4 of x, so that all particular values also you can solve by using your NP matrix. Let us see this. This is an example where what I have done here is to just show you how the images can be created using your NumPy array. So I think if I have completed this in the computer graphics was one of the subject what you might have done with. So in that subject you might have seen that this particular is a structuring element what we can pass it and we can get that type of shape. So here all this using this NP array, we are just given some particular values here, and this 99, 25, 47, these all are intensities. And if I'm just taking a shape of it, this is shape is 15 by 8 is the shape of this particular matrix what I have created here. And if you'll find that if I want to, if I run this by using pl2.imshow and the name of array. So here I'm using the other particular library, what I said that, okay, the second library which is most commonly used by data scientist people is a matplotlib. So if you'll see this matplotlib, okay, so by using this matplotlib.pyplot, this plt is an alias for it. In this pyplot method of your matplotlib, you have different particular operations. One of the operation what I have used here is that plt.imshow an array. So what I'm doing here is that I'm passing this an array into this imshow method. So if I'll see this, I'll just stop this color bar. If you'll see that this is an image, okay. I need to run this first, okay. Yeah. Now if I run this, you will see that you got this particular image, okay. So from the intensities, from this intensity is what I have passed here, we are getting this particular image. If you'll change this intensity, you'll get a different image, and you know that image is formed of RGB, okay, the combination. So here what we are doing is that this RGB combination is having a single value over here, okay. It's not distributed as 3 different values of R, G and B separately. And this all together values is going to give you some sort of intensity over here. So if you change this particular values, now for example, if you see that all zeros are here, so for zeros we are just considering it as a dark color. So you can see that this color here in between, you can say on the third cell, it's all completely dark over here. There is no particular values over here. So this type of image just or the, you can say, coloring objects we can create by using your NumPy array as well as in combination with your Matplotlib. There is another method in order to do this, is also called as interpolation method. So I'm just saying using this method is not, it will also give you, but it is performing the interpolation. So interpolation here means that it will take two pixels which are near to each other, and then it will add it, and then it will generate an intensity. Okay, so if I have first pixel as first particular cell value as 0 and second value as 9, so it will do 0 plus 9 and divide by 2, and whatever value is getting, that particular will be the intensity considered, and that value will be printed at that particular place. You use color bar. This is one type of you can say indicator which will give you what that particular color is going to emphasize, like, you know, what this yellow color means, what this high intensity means. So when we usually do machine learning programs, we give this particular intensity levels as some meaningful things, and then we use it. Again, this is for grayscale. Okay, if I just do CMap as gray, then what is you're going to get is that this all values are considered to be grayscale value and not RGB values. If I'll not give anything by default, it will be in RGB format. But if I'll give something as grayscale or something like that, it will happen in the grayscale values. I have a small example where all together we can use this mathematical concept. See, the main aim of this presentation or this seminar was to have webinar was to have a look of how these mathematical things are being used. So let us take a simple example of a linear regression over here. Okay, so this is widely used, you can say, method by number of people to do the prediction. So what we have done here is that we have just imported few libraries. That NumPy is one of the library, Pandas and Matplotlib. As I told you, these three are very important library used by number of data scientists or data engineers or different particular people, those who are handling this role. Then what we have done here next is like we have just created a figure size. So whatever size of figure will be in this particular size, we are going to have it. And here I'm reading just a data. So this, as I told you, that Pandas is a library which has been most commonly used by people, data scientists, or you can say data engineers, in order to handle with the data. So just an example I'll show you here is that okay, so in order to take a particular data, or in order to fetch particular data, we have to import it. So this data is actually in the same particular place where your this particular Python code is, in that particular folder of Anaconda. And just I have taken it, I'm reading that particular data. So I'm just saying pd.data_csv, headbrain.csv, and then I'm just printing the shape and head of it. Okay, so data.head will not get printed because I'm having a print command for this. So I'm just saying that shape is here. Now what we are doing is that we are assigning x and y. So the aim behind this particular practical is that we are just having two particular parameters. One is the head size, another is brain weight. Okay, so the conclusion from this experiment is to be like, you know, how I should let us say I have a person with a head size is this. So what will be the brain weight of him? So I'm predicting. So for predicting, when we consider data science, we should have a data, and this particular data, what we are doing is, first of all, we are going to train this data, we are going to test this data, and then afterwards, whenever a new sample comes, we are going to predict that particular value for us. So let us see how it is happening over here. So I have this x equals to, I have assigned x as a variable which is handling the head size of that particular values, and y is having the brain weight of that particular values. If I'll show you this data set, if I'll show you this particular data set, just a second. This is a with, sorry. Yeah, this is a headbrain.csv data set, and you can see that a gender is there, age is there, range is there, and head size is there in centimeter cube, and brain weight is there in grams. So if I consider this particular values, I'm not going to consider gender and age. I'm just considering here the head size, centimeter cube, and brain weight in grams. These two values have been considered, and so I'm importing it first. So we have imported this, and we are assigned that this value should be assigned to x and this value should be assigned to y. After doing it, we are just taking the mean of it. Okay, we are just finding a mean of it. So mean of x and mean of y we are finding here. So for finding a mean, what we are using is like we are just using np dot mean and np dot means on the both the things, like whether it is x axis or y axis, we are x values or y values, we are just using np dot mean to get the mean of x as well as y. Np dot mean of y. Just a second. Yeah. So we found that particular mean, and now what we are doing is that we are taking total number of samples. So total number of samples are what we have defined in our this particular CSV, that is 237 rows we have with 4 different particular columns. But our aim here is to find out the intercept and the slope. So M is here is a slope, what we are doing it, and C is the intercept for that particular line. Now this is a regression line. Why we draw the regression line? Let's just come to this in few minutes. So what we have done here, then we have calculated the numerator and denominator for getting these values. That is for getting your you can say slope. We are calculating xi minus x bar into yi minus y bar, the summation of all the values divided by xi minus x bar the whole square. Now what is this is that we are calculating the differences between the actual values, and here I'll just tell you that x bar is nothing but a predicted value. Okay, x bar and y bar are your means, and xi and ya are your actual values. Okay, actual samples, and x bar and y bar is a mean or the arithmetic mean what we have calculated over here. So by this particular thing, so we are just using this particular formula over here, and after getting these values, if I just print, so what is M? M is nothing but your this particular numerator upon denominator, and your C is nothing but this equation. After calculating it, we will get this, and we are just printing the values of M and C. Okay, so if I plot this particular graph, okay, so whatever values I'm getting here, accordingly, if I'll see, I'll get the regression line. So this is my regression line. The line which is shown in the green is a regression line. All these dots are nothing but my samples. Okay, all the samples what we have here. Okay, so that is in our CSV file. All these red samples. This is sort of scatter plot, and this green is a regression line. So here on x-axis, you can see this is a head size given like 3,000, 3,500, 4,000. This is a head size in centimeter cube. And on the y-axis, you can see the weight of brain is given in the grams. Okay, so if you'll see that, if the flow, if you'll see the a pattern of this particular scatter plot, depending on that, what we are doing is actually finding this line, green line. Okay, so the green line is called as a regression line. So what actually is this regression line is that, let us say now I have this particular samples. So if I give a new brain size, let us say I'm giving a brain size between this 4,000 and 4,500. So let us say I'm giving a point like 4,600, sorry, 4,420, like that. So if the size of, you can say head size is in that way, so what will be the equivalent brain size? In order to get that, I need to map these points. So if I'll map this, so if this is my 4,420, so if this point comes here somewhere, okay, and if I want to get the equivalent brain size, brain weight, sorry, then in that case I will do what? I'll just drop a line from this particular regression line towards the bottom over here, or from here to here, I'll go it here, and then whatever the respective value on the y-axis is there, that will be my actual size, actual weight. So if I'm saying that if I have a particular person with a brain size of head size of 4,400 somewhere here, 4,450 or 60 somewhere here, and if I'll find the size of his brain or the weight of his brain, it will be somewhere in between your 1,400 and 1,500 grams. Okay, so that particular prediction can be done using this regression line, but drawing this regression line is not an easy task. Okay, so we now that we have libraries, we use scikit-learn usually in machine learning in order to deal with that libraries. But apart from that, we have different ways to do it. Like, okay, so we have a different type of different ways to do it. We use this particular calculation over here. Now what I can do is I can do a plotting of this. I can plot these values over here, and I can get the actual value for what is required over here. Even we can create a GUI type of thing where we can just put the X values and Y values. And once this model is trained, now obviously if a new particular X value comes to it, I may get a new particular Y value for it. Okay, so that all particular thing we can do by, you can say, this is a simple example I'm giving you. This is a simple thing what we can do, but there are a lot many big things which we can do by using your this NumPy or pandas or your matplotlib. Many your all algorithms of machine learning, deep learning are based on these three libraries itself. So if you are having a good understanding of these three are the main one. Apart from that, we have Skype, we have Plotly is there, we have Stats Model is there. Okay, all these particular other libraries are also used in order to perform different operations. Okay, so Matplotlib is just used for plotting a particular stuff. Like for example, if you have graphs, in order to show that graphs, what that particular graph is going to tell, to show that particular things, we have to we use this matplotlib. Okay, so pandas is there, matplotlib is there, numpy is there. The combination of these three things are mainly used by your all data scientists or your data engineers or machine learning engineers. Okay, so better understanding of algorithms or the models and better usage of this particular libraries will actually turn you towards your main particular objective of becoming a data scientist or a data engineer, like that. So let us move on to slides and see what. Okay, so we have seen with NumPy so far that, okay, what are the different types of arrays we can create. We can perform number of operations. I have told a few of them. Okay, so these are the, like, you know, you can find a mean, standard deviation, variance, okay, etc. We can do for it. Like we can get a complete description about it. Let us see in this linear regression example. I can show you this. Okay, so if I know that we have this header.csv file, right? So what we can do is that I'll just say that file is I've taken into data. Okay, so data is the name of my data frame. I can say, I'll just say data. If I'll run it, okay, it's not defined. I have to run this. Okay, so this is your actual data frame and you have this many records over here. And if I need to perform certain analysis on this, so basic analysis I can do directly. I can just say data dot head. So I'll just get the few particular values, the first 5 values I can get it. Or if I'll do data dot tail, or if I'll do data dot describe, I just need to show you data dot describe here because it is one of the important function of the statistics. So what happens is that whatever numerical values are there with us, we will get the complete statistics out of it. So what is the count, the total count we are getting the mean of that values, but all the numerical values, for all numerical values we'll get this particular count. Okay, then we can get the standard deviation, then minimum value, maximum value, and we'll get these quartiles. So 25% quartile, 50% quartile, 75% quartile. These are all values we can get it. And if you need to plot it, we use mainly the box plot in order to plot this particular values. Okay, so now these are the commonly used libraries, what I was telling you about, that people use pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, Skype. Scrapy is one of the tool. Usually if you go for web scraping or getting a data from the websites, in that case you use this Scrapy tool. Okay, and other than that we use Selenium WebDriver. So mainly what happens, you know, first of all we will see that whatever data is available with us, if you don't have much amount of data in order to do that, we need to, like, you know, get the data through sites or something. For example, if I'll just take a simple example, what Trivago did. Trivago, it takes, like, you know, it scrapes various websites in order to get the hotel information, in order to get the room information, in order to get the prices and all. Obviously they have a deal with that particular hotel. So that's the reason that scraping is allowed. Means these particular sites allow them to scrape their data, and once the scraping is done, what they get this particular data, once this data is available with them, accordingly they will apply the algorithm on it, and then they will, like, you know, use this particular data to get a thing that, okay, these are the hotels in this particular area, these are the room available, and these are the facilities provided, these are the cost of it. Okay, so that is, like, you know, the concept which is used by Trivago. So they do the scraping, and like this is a very important task what you also going to you will also do once you get this particular course of data science. You will learn about data web scraping, where you can just get the data out of it. Like for example, if I'm considering one of my project, what I'm dealing with is a YouTube recommendation system. Now here what is happening is that we have number of videos available. So what actually my particular role here is that I am just finding out, let us say a person types a word called as machine learning. So if he enters a machine learning, then all the videos of machine learning will come. This is normally happening when you do the YouTube search, okay? But machine learning term is not only from the data science perspective. So you may get some particular videos where there are machinery things, okay, which are the mechanical or production thing, but which may not be relevant for you people, okay? So what you have to do is like you have to deep search into it. Okay, so my first job is to take this particular out, all these particular videos which are related to machine learning and also have the term called as data science into it. Second part is that in that case, suppose for example, a student want to know in that machine learning course, a student want to know that, okay, where is this R square value is been calculated, or where is like, a particular thing is calculated. Let us say, where is the linear regression been thought. So out of a complete video of 10 hours, let us say I want to find only a particular part where this particular linear regression starts or where a particular logistic regression starts. So I can give this particular value to the student in my portal, and whatever value is entered by that particular user, that particular, you can say, the audio will be compared with that particular value, and the time at which that particular thing has been explained, that time, you can say, the scroller will go automatically to that particular time, and your video will start playing from that particular instance. Okay, so this is what application what you can build using machine learning and deep learning concepts. So here I'm using even a speech recognition technique, and you can say text, because suppose for example you have a captions on that video, so that captions also can be read, okay, in order to get it. Apart from that, the videos which are like YouTube recommendation, what you're doing, the videos are coming in the hierarchy that, okay, which is a very most popular video. Like for example, I'm considering that, okay, a person from IIT has taught that particular subject, or a particular person from this particular we can say domain, he's a data scientist and he has created that particular video, or he's an expert for that particular video, that particular, you can say, a subject, and he has created that videos or number of views for that particular video. So there are so many criteria what you have to consider in order to do that, and then afterwards we formalize it and we use in our particular algorithm. So these are some common libraries what we use in order to do that also. And yeah, obviously if you're starting for the Python, so you can start with any particular this IDE. uh, Basically, everyone will prefer you to do on ideally which is available by your Python itself, but then apart from that, Jupyter is a very best choice to start your programming with. It's easy interface, you can program in a very well manner, so many things you can do. Then you have Spider, PyCharm. If you go for the deployment tools like of a Python, if you go for Django or if you go for Flask, that type of technology, in that case it's better to use a PyCharm, or it's better to use your Visual Studio Code or your normal IDE. Okay, then if you see for basic project ideas, what you can do is at beginner level, if you start studying Python, and if you're just into it, little bit into machine learning, a little bit into data, a little bit just information about, okay, what is the sentiment. If I know about this, so you can create you can say projects which includes sentiment analysis, which will give the positive or negative review of a particular you can say a text, or if you have to detect whether the news is fake news or the actual news, or you want to define, okay, some sort of diseases depending on the structure or depending on the different parameters which are included, that you can do. Or you can do this drowsiness detection system. Now what happens is, like, there are so many projects have been developed here. You can refer different IEEE papers which are available online, and for doing it. So basically this system is used by drivers, like for example if they're having a long drive, and meanwhile when they are driving in the long distance, they might come across asleep or doziness type of stuff, or they might fail because of that particular drowsiness system might be in possibility of accident. Okay, so to avoid this, we can have an alerting system which will even if like he is performing certain motion, or if his eyelids are closed for certain amount of time, okay, an automatic alert will be generated, or you can say a big horn will be honking noise will created over there, or some particular, you can say, alert we can send in order to make him active like that. Okay, so this can be even done by testing small particular model. You can create it and you can do it. And yeah, customer segmentation or credit card fraud detection. Now this credit card fraud detection, you can see number of banks are using this particular methodologies, which is again through data science or through machine learning. This has become now very easy in order to identify which customers I should give the loans, or which customers can perform they will just take a credit card and they will not repay the EMIs, etc., everything like that. Customer segmentation is mainly used by the sites like Amazon or Flipkart. For example, now if I'm considering in a particular locality, if these products are there, or if you can say at this particular age group, people are buying this particular stuff. So depending on that, what they do is or depending on the buying habits of people. Okay, if you heard about the market basket analysis, so depending on that type of, you can say, techniques, we can just classify the customers or segment the customers. Apart from that, for example, if A customer takes this thing and B customer takes this thing, then there is a possibility that that A can take the whatever stuff has been taken by B also. Okay, so depending on that, relationship can be created. Even the best example for this is you can create a recommendation systems. So many other different types of recommendation systems are available, and different algorithms are available. You can use that particular. Netflix is a best example. If you go for recommendation system, it has its own recommendation system where if you see, when you logged in into a Netflix, it will give you a particular options in order to say that, okay, if you like this movie, there is a possibility you can like this particular movie also. Okay, so these are the simple things. What you can do is, as a starter right now, what you can do is start with this particular languages one by one. If you want to see that, okay, how this particular complete a person can become a data scientist. So I'll say you that, okay, if you want to start with you start with the basic thing, is the mathematics, then which includes your linear algebra, etc. Second particular step, what you can do is that you can start with statistics. Statistics is very important. If you don't have the knowledge of statistics, and then in that case you cannot build your models. You cannot understand what the particular model is going to give you as a part of output. And then followed by apart from this, you have to side by side have two particular languages which are mainly used. You should understand R, you should understand Python. And then followed by that, you can start with, after statistics, you can start with machine learning. Followed by, you can have different big data, Hadoop or something like that you can deal with, or you can start with deep learning and etc. Okay, so yeah, this is from my side of a webinar. So I'll hand over it to Priya ma'am. Okay, just can if you people have any particular questions, you can just put into the chat and we can just answer that particular questions.
Yes, participants, any questions? Am I audible, sir? Hello?
Yeah, ma'am, say now.
Okay, any questions, participants? Okay, I don't think anybody has any questions. So, okay. Thank you so much. So there are many, even head of the departments are there, many trainers are there who has attended this our webinar. Just wanted to inform you by saying their name, I can tell you all these things. See, before switching over to the any Thanksgiving part of this session, I wanted to say about participants first. But I read one comment, sir, in the box that if the person who loves the Python will definitely like this session. So that thing is very important. Correct? You should be, this all technologies are very complex in nature. And if the person in front of you is making the things so easy to make you understand, so that things has to be respected first. So first of all, I would like to apologize whatever has happened at the very start of the scene. Every movie will be having one villain. So just we have to discard that villain from our this sessions. So on behalf of Skillville, I would like to thank you so much for your this valuable insights. You have enlightened the path of our participants in a very beautiful way, and you have explored this beautiful world of data science in front of them. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and your valuable insights, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, participants.
Yeah.